boss Yevgeny Prighozhin has been formally identified as one of the 10 who perished in a plane crash last week by Russia's investigative committee.
On Wednesday, Prighozhin's private jet crashed just northwest of Moscow, killing all 10 passengers.
Yes, so since the incident, the Kremlin has vehemently denied any wrongdoing, despite much speculation.
So, who was Prighozhin? And what does his death mean for the Wagner Group? Well, the political and Russia commentator Danny Armstrong joins us. And Danny, first of all, I think a lot of people are struggling to get their heads around, particularly what was Prighozhin's relationship to Vladimir Putin? Was he a close ally who turned against him, or was his sort of march on Moscow 2 months ago more about the armed forces rather than Putin's role himself?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. I'll pick up on the second part of what you just said there. A lot of people don't understand that this mutiny, this coup, whatever you want to call it, was actually nothing to do with Vladimir Putin. It was never a plan to depose him. It was never a challenge to his power. The plan of Yevgeny Prighozhin, of course, was never to actually replace Vladimir Putin as the president of Russia. What it was against the Ministry of Defense, namely Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, and Valery Gerasimov, of course, who was in control of Russia's operations in Ukraine. Now, Yevgeny Prighozhin is something of a complex character. Vladimir Putin, who offered his condolences to the families of those that perished in the plane crash, named Yevgeny Prighozhin as someone that he knew well. He'd known him since around about the 1990s. And of course, we know that time in Russia was when many state companies, many pieces of Russia that had been under state control was carved up and kind of sold to the highest bidder. That's where he made his fortune. He owned a chain of restaurants. He was known as the chef of Vladimir Putin. That's not because he was cooking him his breakfast, dinner, tea, or breakfast, lunch, dinner, whichever your preference is over that. It's because he owned many an establishment that was frequented by the Russian elite. This was how he made his name, and then he became the head of the Wagner PMC. Now, just 2 months ago, or 2 months before the actual plane crash, whether it was a crash or whether it was an explosion on board that caused the plane to be downed is still up for debate. Of course, the Russian investigative committee is a arm of the Kremlin. It is completely Kremlin controlled. So we'd be a fool to take anything that they say or any findings that they give face value. That would be the same for any organ of any government. However, they have produced the results and said that Yevgeny Prighozhin is one of those bodies that has been identified. And there's a couple of things that stick out to me. Now, the first one is that this isn't the first time that it's happened to Yevgeny Prighozhin, that he's been reported dead in a plane crash. It happened in 2019 when he was making his way back from Africa. Back then, he resurfaced a few days later. But this is different because the Russian state has announced that he is officially dead. And it would be it would cause some red faces if of course, he reappeared in a few days. So that is quite significant. Also, the other thing is when Vladimir Putin was offering his condolences, it was the first time since the mutiny to the plane crash that he'd referred to Yevgeny Prighozhin by name. Now, he hadn't done that before since the mutiny. He has done that characteristically about Alexei Navalny. Yevgeny Prighozhin was one as well, because he mounted his first serious threat to Vladimir Putin in the time he's been in power. That was significant because he saw him as a threat. Now, whether he referred to him by name because he knows now he won't be a threat because he's dead, I mean, that could be quite a significant Freudian slip. Now, whether that's true or not, that's another matter. There's lots of speculation surrounding this incident.